problem of fitting with errors. Yeah. So what is the problem of fitting with errors? So, yeah, so you have got some data points. Yeah. Unfortunately, that data points have some errors in it. Yeah, so let's say you got this data points like this. Some point here, there is some point there, there is some point here. Yeah. Uh, so I mean, so the actual solution was actually this, and you should have got this point or this point or this point, but unfortunately, because there's an error in the measurement device, so you got these points. Yeah. So question is, can we find this line? So this line is unknown. Yeah? We need to find this. These points are known. Yeah, so these points are known. Okay. So yeah, I mean earlier how you used to do this? You will have a matrix. Yeah. So let's say let's write down some. Let's put some points here. So let's say this is 1 1, and let's say this is okay. I'm just giving some numbers so that the calculations are easy. And this is 3 2. Okay. So you are given these points. Yeah. So earlier you would solve this by putting these into a matrix, right? So you will assume that so B equal to some C plus D times T. So this is the T axis and this is the B axis, let's say. Yeah. And if that is the case, then what is the matrix? Yeah. So these coordinates will be the y coordinates essentially. So 2, 2 and 1. Yeah. And we want that yeah, so what should I write here? Yeah, so how do you, yeah, suppose these points are in the line, how do you solve this?
Sir, first column will be numbers 1 and like other column will be x components of the t components of the points.
Okay, so which is, so this is 1, so this is 1, this is 2 and this is 3, right? Yeah. And yeah, if you try to solve these equations, you will not find a C and D because yeah, I mean there is no line which passes through these 3 points. Okay. Yeah. And the question was, what should we do in this case? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So one idea is okay. I mean maybe okay. This doesn't. So I mean yeah. What should we do? So we said okay. Maybe these points have some errors. So we can say there is some errors for all this. And we can find a line such that it satisfies, it is within these errors. And but there are multiple lines which is within these two, satisfies all these error bounds. So we need to choose one particular line. Yeah. So yeah. So what was the plan? So okay. So the important thing to note is the if you look at all the vectors 1 1 1 3 2 1 yeah, times CD, you look at all the vectors you can obtain like this. Yeah, consider all vectors, range of the matrix. Let's say this is the matrix A. Yeah. Now range of A, yeah, is basically the column span of A. You agree?
Yes, sir.
The range of A is the column span of A. Now, so this 2 to 1 vector does not belong to the column span of A. That is our problem. Yeah. So maybe instead of choosing the 2 to 1 vector, we will find a vector such that which is closest to this, that is in the column span of A. So can we find a vector V, yeah, which is in the column span of A, belongs to the column span of A. Let's call the column span of A W. Yeah, and V minus 2 to 1. So the distance of V from 2 to 1 is minimized. Okay, does this question make sense?
Sir, here in distance you are taking second norm, sir.
Yeah, so second norm for now, let's say second. Yeah, but I mean this question makes sense with respect to any norm. Yeah, but for this particular case, let's say it's a second norm. Okay. Yeah. So question is, how do you find this vector? What is the vector which minimizes this? Any ideas?
So geometrically we can think that the projection of V onto column space minimizes it.
Yeah, so the projection of V onto the, sorry, how should I write it? Projection onto W of V, yeah, minimizes this. Does everybody agrees?
Sir, it makes sense intuitively, but can we prove it?
Yeah, so how do we prove it? Yeah, so okay, so you have a subspace W, yeah, and you want to solve the following, I mean, you want to prove the following theorem, right? So we want to prove that, yeah, so projection of onto W of V, yeah, is basically the argmin, yeah, over let's say argmin over, let's say U, norm of U minus, yeah, so this is what we want to prove.
Sir, what is argmin?
Yeah, what is argmin? Yeah, good question. So if I mean this statement you understand, right? You want to minimize this particular objective, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean we don't want the minimum value. We want to find the vector u which minimizes this, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so argmin means that you minimize this and find that vector u which minimizes this and return that.
Okay, sir, understood.
Yeah, yeah, so this means that find u belonging to w that minimizes okay, and this is a common notation that you will see, okay, in many, yeah, I mean textbooks and problems you will see this notation. Argument means that, okay, find that thing which minimizes that objective function and return that. Yeah, so how do you prove this? Any ideas? Yeah, so yeah, so let's say you have some subspace W. So let's consider two-dimensional R2 case. Suppose this is the subspace W. Yeah, so W is this subspace, Yeah, this line is a subspace. It's passed through the origin, right? And yeah, so you have a vector v sitting here. Yeah, and yeah, and let's say you have the vector u here. U is a vector in the subspace. Yeah, and so what do we want to minimize? We want to minimize this length minus this length, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and yeah, when is so what is this length minus this length? It is basically this particular length. Yeah, so this particular length is basically the thing that we want to minimize. So this, let's call this L. We want to minimize L. You agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And yeah, when is L minimized? I mean, intuitively. I mean, you can look at the figure and you can say, right? Only when it's a 90-degree line like this, geometrically, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if u becomes further than this and before this, it is going to, this length is going to increase only. Yeah. And yeah, so now, yeah, what is this point? This point u prime, which minimizes, is nothing but the projection of v onto w. Yeah, and yeah, that's a geometric way to see it. Yeah, so if you want to generate proof, it's going to be very tricky. Okay, so you need to, yeah, write it down very carefully and prove it. Okay, so is this argument clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, could you go over that argument again?
Okay, so we want to minimize u minus v, right?
No, actually, definition of argument.
This claim.
Yeah, the claim.
Okay, so you don't understand what this is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you understand what this is if you just look at the minimum. So let's say I hide this argument. You understand what that is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the minimal value of u minus v for any u in w, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now we don't want to find the minimal value between u minus v. We want to find the u, yeah, which minimizes this function, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that is called the argmin of that. Okay, so let's take one example. Okay, let's take one example. So basically, let's say this is some function f of x. Okay, so let's say minimum over x f of x. So let's say this value is basically 2 and this y coordinate is 3. Yeah. Now min over x f of x. What is min over x f of x?
So,
Min over f of x equal to 2, right? And what is argmin over x f of x?
three.
Yeah. Is that clear? What the difference is?
Yes, sir.
And yeah, I mean it's intuitive what is happening. Same thing is happening here. Yeah, we want to minimize this function. This is our f of x. Yeah, so this is actually our f of u. This is a function of u. V is fixed, and yeah, this is a function of u. And we don't want to find the minimum value of this distance. What we want to find, what is the u which minimizes this? That is the argmin. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I hope argmin is clear. Yeah. So is this intuitive proof clear, at least in R2, that the projection of V onto W is the one that minimizes this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah. So now our problem is, so you have this equation, yeah. So you have this equation AX equal to B, yeah. Unfortunately, B does not belong to the column space of, so has no solution. Yeah, B does not belong to the column space of A. Yeah. So what is the natural thing to do? Yeah. So B does not belong to the column span of A. So what is the natural thing to do?
So we could solve Ax equal to projection of B onto column space of A.
Perfect. Yeah. So instead of, you can take this as W and just solve this Ax equal to the projection of B on the column space of A. Yeah. So remember, we want to minimize. So we want to find, goal is to find x hat such that, yeah, yeah, so Ax hat minus B, take the norm of this, is minimized. Yeah. So I mean, if B was in the column span of A, then we could make this 0. Yeah. But unfortunately, B is not in the column span of A. But we want to find the x hat such that Ax minus B, the norm, is minimized. Yeah. And yeah. So okay. Okay. So you can always write B, yeah, as the projection of B onto W, yeah, plus projection of B onto W perp, right? You agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we looked at orthogonal complements of a subspace. So W perp is the orthogonal complement of W. So yeah, so the B equal to the projection of B onto W plus projection of B onto W perp. Yeah. And then what is so Ax minus B, yeah. Okay, yeah. So remember this Ax minus Ax hat minus B, yeah. So let's write this little more carefully. So Ax hat minus B. So we want to minimize x hat such that, so we want to minimum over x hat, yeah, such that Ax hat, yeah, minus, so let's call this B hat and let's call this B perp. This is what we want to minimize. Okay. And yeah, so yeah, so just a small this thing, yeah. So instead of minimizing this, we will be actually minimizing the square of this. Okay. Yeah, so the minimizing this is going to be Yeah, also equal to the minimizing the square of this. So we'll be actually be minimizing the square of this. Okay, just a small change. Yeah, so we'll be finding x hat.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So why is there a minus sign here?
Why is there a, so we want to minimize ax hat minus b, no?
No, sir, before the norm, like negative norm of ax hat minus b square.
Oh, this is not negative, so this is bullet point.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So, but the thing is, if you look at ax hat minus b hat, so where does this particular vector lie?
Column space of A.
Yeah. So this belongs to W. This particular vector belongs to W because I mean x hat is just taking linear combinations of the columns of A, and B hat is also in W. So this vector lies in the vector space W, and this lies in W perp. Okay. So these two components are orthogonal. Yeah. So we can write this as minimize over x hat norm of ax hat minus b hat the whole squared plus b perp whole squared. Okay, this is by Pythagoras theorem essentially. Yeah, and yeah. So and what is this quantity?
0.
Yeah, so this quantity is basically equal to 0. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, we just need to look at, yeah, we just need to minimize this quantity. Yeah, this quantity has to become equal to 0. Okay, so yeah, how do we make this equal to 0?
Sir, it is 0 if and only if A x hat minus B hat is equal to 0. That happens if and only if x hat is a solution of Ax hat equal to B hat.
Yeah. Yeah, so we just need to solve Ax hat equal to B hat and then we are done. Yeah, and so solve for Ax hat equal to B hat, where B hat is the projection of what B into the column space of A. Okay, and if you do this, you are done. You will find the vector x such that so x correspond to this particular line here. Yeah, and okay.
Sir, one doubt, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, if we solve the equation A x hat equal to B hat, we can get more than one value of x.
Yeah, so we can get more than one value of x. I see. Yeah, so that happens. There's a reason that you will get a unique solution. Why is that? Just a second. So,
Sir,
yes.
since B cap belongs to the column space, we can say that it is a linear combination of the columns of A, right, sir? So we'll just take those coefficients and make them as the column vector x. So
Yeah,
I think we should get only a unique value.
yeah. So we kind of are assuming that the columns are linearly independent. Yeah. So assuming columns of A are linearly independent, Yeah, assuming the columns of A are linearly independent, then there is a unique solution. You agree? Yeah, if the columns of A are linearly independent, then there is a unique X hat such that this happens.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah. So what does that mean? The columns have to be linearly independent. Yeah.
Like
So
for each independent, I mean, like at each interval, at each point of time, we take an observation like that. If there is an experiment for the same
yeah,
x coordinate, we don't have 2 points.
yeah, yeah. So you better, yeah, you need to take observations at yeah, points where I mean, yeah, so that the columns will become linearly independent. That is something you can ensure. Yeah, I mean, you only take so this is basically your x coordinates. So you choose your x coordinates such that yeah, the columns becomes linearly independent, and then you can do this. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So this is one way to look at this problem. Yeah. So yeah, so there is a little more interesting way to look at the problem, which we will cover in the next class. Okay. So I was looking at it. I was also a bit confused there. Yeah. But this much is clear, right? From what we understand. Yeah. So yeah, we had a, I mean, data points which had some errors. Yeah, because it was not so you were not able to find a line through it. So this equations could not be solved. Yeah. So what we did was we took at the y coordinates and projected it to the column span of A. Yeah. Why did we do the projection? Because if you do the projection, we can minimize the error. Yeah, we can minimize the sum of perpendicular distances. So we want to find this line such that the sum of perpendicular distances of these points from the line is minimized. Yeah, and yeah, so the best way to do that was to consider B projected to a subspace W. Okay, and if you do that, basically, so you can do that by just finding the B, which is the projection onto subspace W, that is the column span of A, and then solving this equation. Yeah. Okay, so let's try to prove one more theorem. Yeah, it's an interesting related theorem. So, yes, suppose you have a matrix A. So A is a matrix with linearly independent columns. Yeah. Show that A transpose A is invertible. Yeah, so A is a matrix. The columns are linearly independent. Okay, so A might not be a square matrix. Okay, A is some n by m matrix. So let's say it is some m by n matrix. Yeah, the columns are linearly independent. That's all you are told. So it might be a like long matrix like this. So m is very large and n is very small. So m is larger than n. Yeah. And somehow if you take A transpose A, so what is the dimension of A transpose A?
N by n.
Yeah. So A transpose A belongs to R raised to n by n. Yeah. And somehow A transpose A is invertible. Why is that?
n star n matrix.
Yeah, it's a n by n matrix, but the claim is this matrix is invertible.
Sir, the columns of A are linearly independent, right? So, null space of A would be like there is no null space of A.
There is no null space of A.
Sir, A transpose A is
Transpose
ultimately.
also has null space.
Sir, A transpose A is linear combination of some linearly independent vectors. So it can't be zero, right?
Sorry, could you repeat that again? I didn't follow.
A consists of linearly independent columns, right?
Yes.
So A transpose A is ultimately a linear combination of those columns.
So A transpose A is a matrix. So what are we talking about?
So, sorry, I didn't get you, sir.
So A transpose A is a matrix. So you are saying something about that matrix?
A transpose A, when we are multiplying A transpose with A, we are multiplying the rows of A transpose with columns of A, right?
We are multiplying the rows of A transpose. We are taking dot products of rows of A transpose with columns of A. Agree.
So that ultimately is a linear combination of numbers, right?
Linear combination of numbers. Sorry, you need to be more clear.
I mean, when we are taking dot product, we are just adding up scalars, right?
Okay, so
It is already provided that column of A is linearly independent.
okay.
And when we are taking dot product, it means that we are adding up scalars, multiples of the numbers in the column of A, right?
Multiples of I mean, no, I didn't fully understand what you are trying to say. So this is A transpose, this is A, yeah, and the ijth entry that here is obtained by taking the dot product of the ith row here with the jth column here. I agree with that much. Yeah, so I take the ith row here and the jth column here, and if I take the dot product, I will get this ijth entry. Okay, so what?
We can have this approach, right? Both A and A transpose have no null space. Like only zero vector maps to zero.
So A doesn't have A doesn't have a null space. So the only vectors is that Ax equal to 0 implies that x equal to 0. I agree with that.
Yes, and similarly, A transpose also doesn't have null space.
On the other side, you mean?
Yes, A transpose.
So you are saying A transpose x equal to 0 implies x equal to 0. Is that what you are saying? This is not
Yes,
true.
sir.
This is not true. And the rank of A transpose is not M, right? This is not true. Remember, A transpose is a long matrix like this. Obviously, the rank is much less than M. So,
Sir,
yeah.
sir, is this statement true? Like row space of A transpose times A is equal to column space of A.
Row space of, could you repeat that?
A transpose A, matrix A transpose times A equal to column space of A.
Why do you say that?
Sir, in the multiplication, we could consider the multiplication, like when we are multiplying A with A transpose to the left, we can consider the rows to be combination of the columns in A.
The rows of A transpose A, so basically the rows, each row is obtained, yeah,
Using
by taking the linear combination of the rows of A with the columns of A transpose. sorry, yeah, the rows of A with the rows of A transpose, right? We find each row here by taking the linear combinations of rows of A with rows of A transpose, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a doubt regarding that statement. A transpose x equals to 0 implies x equal to 0. Why is it wrong?
Why is it wrong? So you agree that A transpose is a matrix like this?
Yes.
Yeah. Now the rank of the matrix is at most n.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So obviously there is, and you remember your X is m dimensional. Right?
Yes, sir.
So there is always going to be X. This is not a full rank matrix. There's always going to be X which is orthogonal to some n vectors. Right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, the dimensions, m is greater than n, so there's always going to be X such that this happens. Yeah. So okay. So what is the approach? Yeah. So there is an interesting approach using like norms. Okay. So suppose it is not full rank. Suppose A transpose A is not full rank. Yeah. That means A transpose. So there exists non-zero X. So that A transpose A times X equal to 0. Okay. You agree that? Yeah. So this is equal to 0. Now, if this is equal to 0, I can also multiply X transpose here. This is also equal to 0. You agree?
Yes, sir.
And now this starts looking like a norm. Yeah. So yeah, what is happening here? There is some dot product happening here.
Sir, it is like inner product of X transpose with X.
Yeah.
Sir, X transpose A transpose is AX whole transpose, right?
Yeah. AX the whole transpose times AX equal to 0. Right. Yeah. So when can this happen? Remember the column span of A is n. Yeah. So basically Ax is any, so if X is a non-zero vector, Ax is also a non-zero vector. You agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now you are saying that a vector times dot product with itself equal to 0. When can that happen?
Only when it is equal to 0.
Yeah. So then Ax has to be equal to 0. Yeah. Implies A is not full rank. So implies columns of A is not linearly independent. You agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So which is a contradiction? Yeah. Is the proof clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's a very interesting problem which uses dot products and everything to get a contradiction. So yeah, so I wanted to cover one more thing, though I was a little bit confused, so I was reluctant to cover it. So yeah, we came up with this solution to this fitting with errors, but there is a direct solution to it, which I will try to cover in the next class. Yeah. So instead of when you have this Ax equal to B, and B does not belong to column span of A. Yeah. So the way to solve such that you minimize the distance is by using the following equation. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So this is very similar to what we did earlier. Yeah. Somehow that also reduces to this particular equation. So yeah. And why this equation comes in, I will try to cover in the next class. Yeah. I'll also try to solve some more problems in the next class. Yeah, so we'll cover this in the next class. Okay. So I looked at the feedback. There were a couple of important points. One was, yeah, I need to solve more problems. Okay. So I will try to solve more problems in class, but again, we need to cover a lot of portions, and we should ensure that some minimum portions is also covered. So during the tutorials, problems are getting solved, right? And that is not enough. That's what you're feeling. Yeah, so I thought there was a lot of complaints that yeah, you need to solve more problems, things like that.
Yes, sir. They're not enough in number also, and even the level of the questions are nowhere close to the ones in our assignment, which was recently given.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the level of the questions are nowhere close to assigned. I agree with that. Yeah. But I mean, you
And even
need
in
to.
tutorials, we first revised the concept, so we are not able to solve as many questions as we would like.
So how many questions are typically covered in the tutorials?
I would say anywhere ranging from 3 to 5 or something like
3 to 5. Okay. Yeah, I think 5 problems is a reasonable number.
Sir, we don't solve problems like word problems or problems where we have to do some involved reasoning. They're essentially very direct problems, like definition type.
Yeah, they're more along the level of the weekly quizzes.
I see. Yeah.
So they don't really help us, in the assignment at all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, for assignments, yeah, you need to work a bit more. Okay, you need to read the textbook. You need to do work a bit more to solve the assignment problems. I agree with that. Now, what can be done to resolve that? So, one thing I could do is during the office hours, I can try to solve little more involved problems during the office hours. Yeah. During the class timings, let me try to find some time, yeah, for solving more problems, because yeah, we also have portions to cover, and it will not be good if some portions are not covered and in a later course you don't understand something because I didn't cover something. Okay.
Sir, one small request. So could you give us some extra reading material, like maybe this book only, maybe some other book relating to what topics were covered in assignment 4, what topics more can be covered? Like some more reading material would really be requested, like maybe from a more advanced book.
So is the assignment the problem? Is if you are not able to understand the questions, I mean, there is enough venues for you to ask doubts related to the assignment. Yeah. The first part is you understand the question very clearly, what the question is asking. Yeah. For that, there is enough venues available to you. Yeah. There is office hours. There is even during class times you can ask. Yeah. Now, solving the problems requires thinking. Okay, so you need to think hard. That's the only way to solve problems. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, and all of them has a simple solution. So I can discuss the solution sometime. For example, I can discuss the solution during office hours. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would suggest you try harder. Okay, I mean, it requires thinking, and the only way to learn the subject is thinking harder. That's I mean, I will try to cover more problems during office hours, but I mean, there is enough reading material provided. I mean, there are 2 books, textbooks provided. There is also links to the OCW and other resources. So yeah, I mean, and for every lecture I try to add links relating that lecture. So so Vivek thinks that that is not good enough, like textbooks is not good enough.
Sir, no, I'm not saying that, sir. I'm saying, sir, I just, there were a lot of new topics that needed, like, I need to read the textbook, like, a lot to be able to realize what was being asked in the assignment.
Yeah. So I mean, the reason for assignments is also that. Okay, thing is, many a times we sit in the class, we listen to the class, but the thing is, we don't realize the full extent of what is taught in class many a times, and the assignments is supposed to push you to read more about it and try to understand. I mean, everything covered in class is simple. In some sense, this all linear algebra is very simple if you understand it clearly. Okay. Only thing is we don't fully understand what is taught in class. That's the problem many a times. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the assignments is supposed to push you so that you fully understand the topics. You read the topics again and again, you understand it. Yeah. So I mean, the textbooks has lot of problems. It's not like there is a shortage of problems, and also there is lot of solved problems in the OCW site. Yeah, if you just go there, there's a lot of solved problems there. Yeah, and I'll try to cover some of them during the office hours. Okay. Yeah, that's all for today. Yeah, I mean, I can take questions.
Sir, for the last theorem, we proved that A transpose into A is linearly is invertible. We can have another approach, right?
Okay, sure.
A like suppose U and V are 2 vector spaces. Dimension of V is M and dimension of U is N.
Okay.
Then A maps from U to V, right? Like suppose A maps from U to V.
Yeah.
Then the range of A, the range of the transformation A is a subspace of V, n-dimensional subspace of V.
A maps from
U to V.
U to V. Just a second. From U to V. That is right. Yeah.
The range of A is an n-dimensional subspace of V.
That is right. Range of A is an n-dimensional subspace of V.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is right.
Yes, sir. Now, another thing is that A transpose, when operated on any n-dimensional subspace.
Just a second. So the U is n-dimensional and V is m-dimensional, right?
M greater than n.
Yeah. So, okay. Okay. Now.
A transpose, when operated on any n-dimensional subspace, doesn't have any null space.
A transpose acts on n-dimensional subspace, no?
Any n-dimensional subspace of the vector space of m dimensions. Like each vector has m coordinates, but dimension of that subspace is n.
Okay, you have some subspace of V. Okay.
Plane in a 3D space. We need three coordinates to represent each point, but the dimension of that space subspace is 2.
Sure. Okay.
Yes, now A transpose on any n-dimensional subspace of V doesn't have null space because its rows are linearly independent.
Why is that? How can we say this for any n-dimensional subspace?
It is similar to, I mean, its rows are independent, right? Because the columns of A are independent.
Yeah, rows of A transpose are independent. Yes, I agree with that.
Now, so it doesn't have any null space when acted on like n-dimensional thing.
Not any n-dimensional thing. Okay, so we studied that row rank equal to column rank. This was one of the first questions I asked. Yeah. So yeah, so I mean, if you look at A transpose, yeah, if you look at A transpose, yeah, I mean the rows are linearly independent. So the columns also have rank n, right? Columns has rank n. There is some n linearly independent columns, right?
Yes.
So lot of columns are linearly dependent. Yeah. So if you I mean if you look at the subspace corresponding to related to that columns, there will be null space. Not for any subspace of V, we can say that I mean null space equal to 0. Yeah, so you need to be a little more careful.
So can you please explain it once again? Like, why doesn't it suit for any subspace?
So you are saying A transpose, yeah. If I take any subspace of this m-dimensional space, yeah, of V, you are saying, so are you saying that all the columns of A transpose are linearly independent? Take any m columns of A transpose that is linearly independent.
Only rows are independent, sir.
Only rows are independent. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
Only any n columns are independent, sir.
Why is that
But
true?
we have
the row rank is m. I agree with that. That means the column rank is also n. Yeah. That's all we can say. That is, there is some n linearly independent columns. That's all we can say. Yeah. But every n columns are not linearly independent. You can find counterexamples. For example, I'll put zeros over here. What is wrong? Zeros, I took the first n, so I put a n by n full rank matrix here and zeros everywhere else. Right? Sriharsha?
yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
then
sir, yes.
yeah.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So you need to be a little more careful. But maybe you don't need any subspace. You possibly only need one particular subspace, which is spanned by some columns.
Yes, sir. Okay. So if we can find that this subspace, I mean the subspace which is the range of A, if we operate with A transpose on that subspace, it has no null space. Like if we find a link to prove that, then it will be easy. I mean the subspace which we got by A. I mean when we operate with A on U, we get a subspace in V, right? Now we should be able to prove that when we operate with A transpose on that subspace, there is no null space.
Yeah, that is right.
In that case, A transpose A is invertibles.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah. I think that that proof will also work if you just argue it clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.